welcome to Truth and Transparency. Good afternoon, welcome to the Transparency. Welcome to Truth and Transparency. Not sure if this is working.
Today is not a day to celebrate. With the arrest of Richard M. Allen of Delphi.
Take care, Miss Vargas. See you soon, Miss Vargas.
Paparazzi, stop.
What is up, guys? Welcome to Truth and Transparency. Good evening. Good evening. I went ahead and rearranged my schedule tonight. So, because Miss Bella is going to be joining me for the Delphi stuff. So I'm going to be actually doing a nooner tomorrow for the Delphi stuff. And so I went ahead and bumped this up. So make sure you guys can hear me. I'll get up in the hood. I also am rearranging a studio space, so shit's everywhere. But welcome. Got some stuff to talk about in the Brian Kohlberger case, Idaho4 case. We got some dates that have been, put out. I think it's interesting. I don't know if you guys realize this, but Ann Taylor writing back, I'm going to have Delphi tomorrow at noon Eastern Standard. We're actually going to be in Delphi, by the way. We're leaving to go to Delphi. Well, we're going to Allen County, so. But basically, this is how this all breaks down. Backseat Bill writes, Dear Judge, as you requested in court yesterday, I'm writing to detail the state's trial scheduling order proposal. The jury trial is set to commence on Monday, March 3rd, 2025. Okay. Well, Ann Taylor basically is like, she thinks that the trial starting in June or in the summer of 2025, just so you guys understand that. But here are the dates that, with the proposal. Preliminary discovery deadlines, September 6, 2024. Now, what that means is that whatever dates they end up setting that's the cutoff date. There is no more turning over, and this evidence cannot be used against Brian Kohlberger. So right now, the proposal is that basically at the end of the summer. So they can go all the way, up until that point. Anything that they would come across the state, you're going to have a really hard time getting that in. November 8th, defense discovery deadline, 2 months following the states, and to include mitigation. February 7th, which I think is interesting how the courts around the holidays are a mess, and the holidays go by so fast. So yeah, there's not going to be much going on with, Thanksgiving, and then you have, Christmas and New Year's week. So, your end of your December or end of your November, and then your December is just, we all know how it is around the holidays. Not try to be doing like, extra court dates, not even being open because you have extra days off, business days that you would normally have as business days aren't business days. So February 7th is the state's reply rebuttal discovery deadline. All discovery deadline to include expert disclosures. So there's going to come a point that after that set date, the defense nor the prosecution can be using expert witnesses that they did not disclose to them, to the other person. Now, final pretrial conference week of February 12th to the 16th. Defense death penalty motions. These are the dates that he has suggested because this is a death penalty case. So submission of proposed jury questionnaire November 1st, 2024. Now, I have a question as to why this wouldn't be like up over here. But whatever, Bill. You know, I thought when we make fucking lists, man, I always was taught that you go in chronological order. So, whatever, man. Submission of proposed jury instructions and exhibit witness lists. January 31st, 2025. So your witness list, if you ain't on the witness list by January 31st, again, this is his proposal, then you ain't going to be no witness. So can I get a witness? Pre-trial motions in limine. Your motions in limine is stuff that you are going to try to say are off limits to because they are extra prejudicial or not relevant. So I'm trying to think in like this situation for Brian Colber. Let's see. I personally think that they're going to try to, if Brian Colber in fact was an ex-heroin addict, I without a doubt think that they're going to try to like have that not be able to be discussed. But again, at the end of the day, it's judge is going to say yes or no to that type of stuff. But that's what that means. Responses due. Okay. Replies due. Hearing week. Okay. Motions can, of course, be filed earlier. No shit. Thanks, Bill. All right. Now that comes. And you guys like that orange paper there? It's just making it pop for you. Oopsies. Now, Ann Taylor, she feels a little bit differently than Bill. Ann Taylor's like, well, Bill, I this is just wild to me, guys. And I'm going to just say it. Bill Thompson said that he needed a summer trial, okay, for like just everything logistic wise. Next thing we know, Bill Thompson is saying, okay, we can do a trial in March. Well, didn't that just defeat your whole oral arguing the day that you guys had court? Now all of a sudden, okay, we can do March. That's not the summer, okay? And I'm telling you this is my opinion. I believe that Bill is doing this so that Latah County does not get tossed from actually being the host site of the trial. Because if the trial didn't happen by the end of the summer of 2025, you're saying that this trial wouldn't then happen until 2026? Anyways, so just want to throw that out there, that it was just interesting that he's, this trial is going to take a long time. This trial is not going to be 2 weeks or anything like that. And if it is, then I think that Brian would win ineffective assistance of counsel. There's just no way that this trial, I mean, Ann Taylor has said how long she thinks this is going to go for. And you guys know what number she tossed out, right? She said 12 to 16 weeks. So go ahead. Now comes Brian Kohlberger, Brian through his attorney, and this is what they're suggesting. So the court's current order setting deadlines, governing deadlines, blah, 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 change of venue motion, briefing, witness list, and evidence. Mr. Colbert respectfully requests the court set additional deadlines. So expert disclosures, including requiring filing under the Idaho Criminal Rule 16 Rules of Evidence. So state October 2024. This is where Bill was saying his deadline was September 6th. Okay. This is Bill. This is what she's saying. Defense, January of 2025. Both sides. And then, he was saying September. So October, November. I think that was like November 6th for him. She's saying that defense motions regarding the death penalty filed by November. So let's look at his again one more time to Billy. So he wanted, so she's saying November. I think they actually agree with that. No, he wants it, the death penalty, he wants that to be September 6th. Okay. Response for that is he wants it to be October 11th. Defense reply, he wants that. And then this is what a hearing then. He wants this hearing to be the week of November 4th through the 8th of 2024. Okay, so there we go. So this is Ann's proposal. This is Bill Thompson's proposal. Now, 12B motions filed by, and that's going to be he wants this to be November. And then December. Exhibit. So he wants January 31st, 2025 challenges to be. He didn't even put that down. So, okay. So here we go. And then basically you're looking at so this is the difference. Ann Taylor saying you're looking at like a May to June trial, March 3rd. And of course, Bill Thompson replied with, basically get the hell out of here. He said, as the record reflects, when the parties appeared before the court on Wednesday, February 28th, 2024, discussion was had regarding scheduling orders and trial dates. Both the state and the court indicated interest in a March 3rd, 2025 trial date. The state also proceeded to outline a list of proposed pretrial deadlines. The court then asked the state to submit those proposals to the court, which the state did by letter dated February 28, 2024, a copy of which was attached as Exhibit A. The state's proposed deadline would accommodate a March 3rd, 2025 trial date. The additional deadlines proposed in the defendant's March 6th, 2024 filing would negate any possibility of a March 3rd, 2025 trial date. Because of this, and for the reasons previously articulated in our filings, in court, the state objects to the defendant's March 6, 2024 motion requesting additional deadlines and resubmits a March 3rd, 2025 trial date with pretrial deadlines as outlined in Exhibit A, and that they believe that is appropriate. Now, that's what went on, and also that the fact that the Supreme Court went ahead and said, yeah, no, like denied the appeal for which was Brian Koberger appealing to the Supreme Court on what took place to the grand jury, stuff about the instructions to the jurors, as well as probable cause versus beyond a reasonable doubt. So that was denied. But I just had a chuckle at this because it's just like, I feel like Bill Thompson's just like winging stuff. Like, dude, you just said that you have to have a summer trial. Then you literally leave about on February 28th and you're like, okay, well, we're ready. We can go ahead and have a March trial now. Well, how can you now have a March trial? What about all the logistics that you said was going to be an issue? You know, people traveling, the media, the schools, all the busing. You know what I mean? Like, where's all that? And I'm telling you guys, I promise you on this, it is my firm belief that Bill Thompson, if he wanted to keep the trial where it was, you can't say that we can only have it in the summer. You know what I mean? Like, that's why he did this. It was, in my personal opinion, it is to keep the trial in Latah County. Now, a case that I did, Jamie Brown's case, it's 2001. They were saying that a black man killed this cop, which he did not. But what they did in that trial, it was out of Pennsylvania. And so the county was Beaver, and Beaver's racist as fuck. Okay. And what they did, though, they bussed in the jurors from Erie, Pennsylvania to Beaver for that trial. And that was back, like I said, that's been like, I don't know, 23 years ago, 24 years ago, something like that. And I thought to myself, I was like, I wonder if, you know, this type of case, can we just bus these people in from Hawaii? It's a joke, bus them in. You'd have to fly them in. But, I mean, that was a hike. They stayed, they put them up in hotels, the jurors in that case. But what they did is they kept it in Beaver, but the Beaver County residents were not on the jury, and it was a different county in Pennsylvania. Okay. And they, you know, and then they sequestered the jury in a sense, because then they stayed in the hotel. So something to consider. Now, what do I see them doing with this case? Well, I think they're going to go ahead and set the March 3rd trial date. And I think there's going to be some delays in it, because that's just per the par for the course here. And then I foresee the actual trial starting literally right at the beginning of summer, with that little cushion of, like, you know, the delays. Again, just my take. They're going to have a hearing. The next big date coming up in April. They're having a little hearing, and they're going to discuss here in the Brian Koberger case. They have witnesses and that are going to be testifying, and this has to do with moving, you know, the trial. So that's going to be heard here in April. Yeah, I thought JJ acknowledged AT said she couldn't make the trial date. Yeah, and also I think it's so funny that Bill Thompson thinks just because he brought something up in the court that day and said, yeah, like, oh, I've designed something. I drew this up. Okay, that doesn't mean that that's what was happening. Okay, that was what you proposed, Bill Thompson. You proposed that the trial starts in March. But I just think it's funny that you're just like literally losing your dick and balls when you were like, we cannot have a trial if it's not in the summer. And then here you are saying, We can do a March 3rd trial date. I'm like, man, you guys are so full of shit over there. That's just a lie. All right, let's talk about some other things. Now, Megyn Kelly came out and made some bold statements. Megyn Kelly came out and said that she believes that Brian Kohlberger is guilty, but that Brian Kohlberger is going to walk. Because it's not about if I think somebody's guilty, it's about what you can prove in the courtroom. And Megyn Kelly believes that they're not going to be able to prove Brian Kohlberger guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, and that there's going to be multiple hung juries. What do you guys think about that? I propose AT file a motion to lift the gag order and hold a press conference regarding her client's innocence. Yeah, now we're talking. Yes, Miss Kelly says, I heard her say that as well. I think she's right in a sense. So I'm just curious of what you guys think about, again, Megyn Kelly coming out and saying that she believes that Brian Kohlberger is guilty, but she does not think that Brian Kohlberger is going to be found guilty and that he's going to go through multiple hung juries, not just like she's in multiple hung juries. And so then I wanted to talk about that. Okay, because I believe Megyn Kelly is not going to I think that Megyn Kelly has integrity. Okay. I think that she's bombshell, with her looks and stuff like that. But I personally think that she's made a difference with her career in a positive way. Now, with that said, what does Megyn Kelly know that we don't know? She's the first person to truly come out and say that. So Megyn Kelly believes that the jurors are going to have some problems. So that got me thinking about the grand jury and what the grand jurors were actually showed and what the grand jurors were actually told and who testified and things like that to literally go ahead and get this indictment of Brian Kohlberger, right? And so I am like, my ears were like, wait, what did I just hear? Let me rewind that. Holy shit. That, because it's very, very interesting to me. It's very, very interesting that she does not think the only way that the jurors are not going to be able to come to a decision is going to be because of the evidence that's presented, or maybe lack thereof. Maybe that's a better way to say it, because if the sheath doesn't get in, what is there? But here, Megyn Kelly, hung jury, not once, but she said multiple times, and that the jury is not going to be able to agree. And I'm like, wow, it's interesting that she thinks that, because if you go out there, I swear all mainstream media is all they're saying is that Brian Kohlberger is so guilty and what a sick son of a bitch, right? I believe that they are in hella trouble with the investigation, with the people that were investigating this case. I think that Ann Taylor is going to be able to really, really drive home with the jurors that these guys, these men and women, have some serious fucking credibility issues in the way that they conduct themselves in investigations. And can it be reliable information? The 911 call coming in, obviously, hella late. But I think think Megyn Kelly might know something we don't know. A critical thinking can't stand Megyn, but if I remember correctly, she was once one hell of a lawyer. Exculpatory evidence, things that make you go, Candace Owens said she has a gut feeling he's going to walk too. And it's just like, why do these people think this? I'm really curious as to why all of a sudden are these people saying it. It's a difference of being like, okay, this guy is, I'd be saying things like this. Well, I don't know if he's innocent or guilty, but I can tell you this: I think he's going to walk because of X, Y, and Z. But I don't know if he's innocent or if he's guilty because I haven't seen the evidence and I don't know what they have. There's a gag order here, like we don't have anything. So you go and look at the Karen Reed case. Dude, they just announced the cops are investigating their own. Michael Proctor is going there. All these people are going to prison. The feds got involved. I mean, they tried to cover up and frame a woman, right? This is the time of the I feel like history goes and like obviously it repeats itself, but it goes in spurts with things. And I feel like right now, like look around yourself, and all these cases are hella big with it's all corruption. Karen Reed, Delphi. Shit. Sheldon Jeter Jr., Rachel Del Tondo. We have issues over there in Jacksonville right now. That's going to be a huge thing in the Shanna Gardner case. What other ones? Okay. If he walks, he's going to be huge. Every media outlet will offer money for the first interview. Book deal, potentially. I'm just curious as to where all of a sudden this is coming from. Hi, Boston. What's up, girl? Loving it. Woo! I love listening to this. Oh, shit. So let's talk about some evidence here. I know there's some rumors going around that, what was it? That Emma Bailey is in Latah County jail with Brian Koberger. All of my research says that that's not correct. So I got a ton of emails about that. So that's all I'll say about that right now. The other one is do I think that Emma Bailey and Demetrius are confidential informants and that they got a deal and that's why they were let go out of the connection with the drugs with Caden Young? No, I don't think that they fucked all of that up with the drugs and all of that. They messed up the counties. That's a jurisdiction issue that they screwed up. That's number one. Number two, with the whole Demetrius and Emma, I think it's way more interesting to talk about who Emma's second mom is, and that is the media and advertising person for the University of Idaho. That's the stepmom of Lake, and she comes out of the woodwork to literally write the day after the murders and say that her stepson lived in that house when he never motherfucking did. I think that's interesting. I think that's way more interesting than Emma and Demetrius, I mean, I can tell you that they're not going to be fucking witnesses for the state. If Ann Taylor uses them to talk about drugs, I mean, Cindy, Cindy, baby. So think about it. The state isn't using Emma and Demetrius. That they're going to keep this whole case way away from any drug angle whatsoever. So I can promise you that Emma Bailey and Demetrius would not be testifying for the state at all. Yeah, that's what I think. I think it was a way to say if his DNA was in there, that's why. That's exactly what I think it was. Anyways, it was just really interesting about that. But here, Lake has been living in Boise. Okay, this is some of the investigation stuff that I did back in the day. Lake, through a source involved with the fraternities, Lake had been living in Boise working on roofing. So throwing that out there as well. Murky says, no, she isn't. And she isn't in WA jail either. The only person back in trouble was CK, violated and now serving the suspended. Oh, yeah, Colonel. Yeah. So everybody's all hung up on this whole alibi shit. Okay, about, well, why doesn't Brian Kober have an alibi? Like, and you're not just going to wait around and see what we produce before you give us your alibi. Wait, hold on. Fuck all you people. We're sitting here telling you that we believe a sheath was planted, and now you want us to tell you our alibi. So what, you guys can fuck with that too? How about nobody discloses an alibi? How about you don't even need one, okay? But this whole like surrounding of like this, Brian Kober doesn't have an alibi, or people need to understand that if Brian Kober and them wanted to just say, look, like any other normal American at 4:00 in the morning or at 3:00 in the morning, that they'd be sleeping, who really has a alibi at 3 and 4:00 in the morning that is like involving other people, right? I was sleeping at my apartment like anybody else. But Brian Kober is not saying that. Brian Kober is saying that he was out driving his vehicle, but the alibi is because your cast crew marking and pinning where the hell he was. That's like, we're going to cross up your dude. Okay. Just like in the Karen Reed case, we're going to go get our expert to get these phones, dump these phones, go through the Celebrite, point out like all the stuff that you're trying to fucking hide in the Karen Reed case. Okay. With House Long to Die and Cold, and the deleted text messages and calls and things like that. So we're going to use your own witnesses mixed with kind of ours to cross-examine and to show you that whatever the hell you all said and provided back in the day, it's junk science and it doesn't add up. That type of shit. But for Brian Kober to say that he was out, driving, and then for people just to say like, see, I mean, right there, he's out driving. Who would be driving it? Dude, if that guy literally is driving at night all the time, that's a pattern of behavior that to a juror makes sense. What wouldn't make sense is that you never go out driving and then therefore you're out driving around on a night like that and then there's this murder, right? But if he's always doing that, doesn't that just going to show that's something that he always does? But so everyone's getting this whole like alibi thing twisted. No, I don't foresee Brian Kober saying, I was at Timmy's house, and what I could probably see maybe being said is, when I go out driving, this would be my normal route. But I could maybe see something along the lines of is I don't really have a normal route. So I don't know. But I think what people are missing is that if Brian Kohlberger claims the vehicle on the WSU camera that's the 2014 to 2016 model on WSU's campus, and he claims that car and that's his car, and he identifies that that's his car, you guys do understand that that car is not the same car that's on Moscow's campus. And you're going to use their witness to show when he's on the stand and say, okay, you identified this vehicle over here as being what? This. Perfect. And you identified that vehicle as being what? That. So you identified two different vehicles. Isn't that correct? Yes. And my client is claiming the WSU one. Okay. Oh shit, then that can't be that car. Those are two different cars. We're not talking about businesses in a like Bonner's Ferry with the Idaho other case. 18 businesses in a little mile radius looking at the same vehicle, driving all around in the same area. Yep, you can probably pinpoint that, okay, yep, that's the same car. We're talking about two totally different campuses, 20 minutes away from each other, and hella white vehicles that are clearly on both campuses and clearly across the United States. 22,000 fit the criteria that they were looking in. Well, was that including when you had to extend that, time or the years, or did that make it even more? Also, let me ask you this. Ann Taylor, mark my words, is going to ask this question. She is going to ask who was in charge of putting out the daily press releases. And somebody is going, whoever she asked that to, they're going to then say who it was. Then when that right person is on the stand, she's going to say, do you recall posting on December 8th or 7th or whatever the fuck it was, 2022, be on the lookout for a white Hyundai Elantra? Yes. Okay. She's going to show that presser. She's going to show that. Okay. I'm willing to bet a decent amount that she is then going to ask, okay, why were there two different vehicles that you put out? Why does one have a sunroof and one doesn't have a sunroof? Why didn't you put out the actual vehicle from the camera that you were using? And aren't you guys curious of those answers? Because I know I am. But you're going to be able to tie in the fact that you're what was the year of this car? What was the year of that car? Okay, so you put out two different vehicles. Is that because your FBI expert identified two different vehicles when you were working on the investigation in this case? How do you think that's going to go over in court? So it's because he identified two different vehicles, right? It's also because why would you be putting one with a sunroof and one without the sunroof? Could you not tell if it had a sunroof? So you then don't know what car this is. I'm having a huge problem understanding this part of it, which is that corner house has a really good camera. If you can be within the clip of it, if it would have came on and registered when you were, driving around or whatever. We have Linda Lane leak. Okay. We've had pictures from that light bulb camera leak. Now, we don't have no picture of a good angled picture from that light bulb camera to leak. I don't believe there is one. I don't believe there is one. And there isn't a good enough quality one because is this guy going to say on the stand, we put out 2 because we didn't want the real owner to get worried that we knew too much about the car. You think that they're going to say that as the answer? Who did you have to approve? Who did you have to ask to get the approval? Whose idea was it to put out these 2 vehicles? 2 different years, 2 different makes. Whose idea? Ann Taylor is going to be able to spin that, and it's not even spinning, you guys. There's no spinning here, actually. I shouldn't even use that word. That's a wrong word. Fuck the word spin. Ann Taylor is going to be able to articulate to the jury to show that they even put out 2 different cars. The police put out 2 different vehicles. It's because they identified 2 different vehicles. So were there 2 cars involved in this in the homicides? Was there 2 vehicles? But then why are you so confused on what this vehicle looked like? And none of those were actually the year that my client drives, is it? Because that's a 2011 and the other one's a 2013, I believe. You understand where I'm going with this? So this is all going to stem from this whole alibi thing. Okay. Brian Kohlberger is going to claim that WSU white vehicle. I believe he's going to be asked, is this your vehicle? Yes. How do you know it's your vehicle? Because on that night, I was at the police department, and I usually get off at 2:45, right before 3 o'clock in the morning, whatever his answer may be. But don't you think, I'll tell you, Ann Taylor has the return of the discovery returns on his apps, and if they were Latin long and all this stuff to be able to show where he's at. But the one thing that she keeps on asking for is this motherfucking cast report. The cast report that's in the probable cause to arrest her client, that was heavily used to arrest her client, to show and say that Brett Payne could say that Brian Kohlberger made this loop, and that's why he's able to try to connect that WSU car that they see at 5:26 in the morning. So, and that this, this is the route that the car is moving. Unless you have that car that he identifies, is I believe that what's going to happen is he's going to be identifying that car on WSU's campus. That car is different than the one that they put on the 700 block of Indian Hill. And so right when you say that, how would, if you're a juror, if you don't believe that that's the same car, that everything goes out the window with you then saying that that car is Brian Kohlberger, and that Brian Kohlberger was the one circling the 4 times and then running in and stabbing and killing everybody. You understand that? That's not the same car then. If you don't believe that as the juror, then you're not going to be able to convict Brian Kohlberger because you don't believe that that's his car. Because the FBI told you that it wasn't his car, because the FBI said that when they first identified it, the person from CAST, whoever not the person from CAST, but one of the FBI experts that looks at cars. And remember the whole hiccup there? Well, what photo did you have the FBI pick out this car make and model? Like, how are you even saying it's a white Honda Elantra versus like a white Camry? What picture did you use, so that we can go ahead and look at the specs here, so that And this is what Ann Taylor is going to do in crossing up these people. And so now we're going to go back and talk about Megyn Kelly and these other people wanting to come forward and say, hey, I think Brian Kohlberger is guilty, but he's going to walk. Well, that's just the fucking wildest shit I've ever heard, because I don't think anybody should walk. If I believe that Brian Kohlberger did it, I'd be doing everything in my power to help people, but I would have a really strong reason that I thought that. But what I see here is right now, they may have all this evidence against this guy. We don't have it. So therefore, you are innocent until proven guilty, right? But all the fuckerage around it does not help, you're going to go preliminary hearing and all of a sudden you go grand jury after Bethany supposedly has this exculpatory evidence, or whatever Bethany heard and saw. It's going to be different than, I'm guessing Dylan. We were having bets the other day. Do you think that Ann Taylor is going to ask Dylan Mortensen on the stand? Dylan, do you see the guy that you saw on November, 13th, early morning hours? Do you see the figure here today? Do you think that she's going to ask that question? I would, because then I would want to know, how do you know that that's him if he had on, this mask and he was all covered up head to toe, right? I'm telling you, I would ask that question and I'd put her in a position to answer that and then go from there with how she answers it. Because I don't believe that she's going to have to say no. Because if she says yes, Ann Taylor would have a field day with that. Oh, so the guy that you saw, he's here today? Okay, can you point him out for us? Yeah, he's sitting at the defense table. Oh, okay. Well, how do you know that, how are you identifying him? Have you ever met him before? No, these cops told me when I did a photo lineup. No, I'm just playing. But I would be, what is she going to say? Those look like the eyebrows. Then that would make her look like a fool in front of the jurors. I'm just saying, if you want to get creative with this case, I'd ask Dylan that question. I'd ask Bethany that question. And I would say, do you see the man that you saw? No. What's she gonna say? I don't know. What's the answer going to be? Yes. And then she's going to have to explain how, or she's going to say no. And then it's like, okay. Or can she say, no, I don't, because he was wearing all of this stuff. You understand how you can go. If Ann Taylor does, in my opinion, if Ann Taylor does not ask that question, she's fucking up a huge opportunity, in my opinion, for the jury to see that Dylan has no information when it would come to who truly did this. Especially if Dylan did not say right away that he had bushy eyebrows. Depending on the different statements that she has given, if they're, but I'm asking that question. Again, that's me. Yeah, so they're arguing right now a March trial date or a, hey, it needs to be in the summer. Oh my God, if the trial is in JJ court, we won't see shit during the trial. Only 2 views and not of the stand. They're not putting the camera on the witness stand. I thought that was just for, I thought that they were giving people the choice of that. Yeah, me too. Want to see a 30-year veteran give a legit reason he could have made a mistake about the car. They're going to have, I believe a legit reason would be it's that poor quality of camera, but if it's that poor quality, then how did you even narrow it down that it could be like an Elantra versus this versus that? But you have two different vehicles there, guys. If a juror believes that that vehicle is not the same as the vehicle that's on Moscow's campus, I think that you're really, really fucked. So, and I think I've been saying that for a year and a half, however long this has been going on. I became a Elantra expert, okay? I could see an Elantra a mile away now. I'm curious as to who all the defense will be calling to the stand. I think, what's her name? I think Ann Taylor's made it pretty clear that she plans on using their own witnesses against themselves, like, through cross-examination. I can't. I can't wait for the Washington campus dudes to get on the stand. So, were you just driving around that night? You just happened to come across that white Honda Elantra? How'd that work out? No, I just type in the computer and I got a list of all of them. That's what would make sense to me. Who's driving around looking for a car? Nobody. You would just type it in. 400 witnesses. Let me explain those 400 witnesses. Okay, so they said that there was 120 people in law enforcement that were in this. So right there, 120 law enforcement. So now we got 280 to account for. And that would be at any report. A witness is anybody that would have ever been interviewed, in my opinion. That's who they're probably talking about as far as witnesses. But, and no, it's not that there was a snuff film and 400 people watched it. I mean, who the fuck is putting this shit out there? Did you guys hear that? I don't even know. I laugh. I'm like, the fuck? The 400 people aren't from a snuff film, okay, guys? The 400 people are from an investigation that spanned 7 weeks, and that's anybody that they had to have a report and their name is in a report. That's my opinion on who, and then the people that were taking the reports. Those are your 400. So, just wild. So okay, so if you're a juror and you find out that the car make and model is the same make and model of that of Jack D or Jack D's roommate, if you find out that all of those houses around there had those vehicles, okay? If you're a juror, how would that impact you? If you have people taking the stand talking about where they work, what type of car they have, and what time of the day and night that they're driving around. I was told, because I listen, that the car video is coming from the Ridge Road street, coming the wrong way or going the wrong way at the wrong time. That's the video that they use to identify this, the car being the Elantra over on Moscow's campus. Makes no sense, right? They're going to need a booster seat when Payne gets on the stand. You guys, 12 to 16 weeks. 12 to 16 weeks. Delphi only scheduled out from, what was it? May 13th until May 31st. And I thought, I'm like, they're wishful thinking if they think that, because Richard Allen's putting out a defense, okay? Brian Colbert is going to be putting on a defense. Brian Colbert, do you think he's got nowhere to go? Yeah, I want you to call all these people to the stand. You know? Like the OJ trial, yeah. I mean, I would want to ask all the Idaho State police officers why they were lined up at the Sigma Chi house for days on end. Why were you guys over there every fucking day? And you guys, they are allowed to bring this type of stuff into evidence. Jonathan Lee Riches, they were there. He was filming all of that. Okay? That stuff was preserved. I would be using that to show, you guys were parked outside of Sigma Chi literally round the clock, not just one officer. You guys were lined on that street. What the fuck were you guys doing over there? All those body cams. You're interviewing all those people. God, I would love to watch that shit and see. I mean, we have proof. I have seen it. I did it on a live. I showed you guys. I had to cover up some stuff, but the Snapchatting, I have proof, undisputed proof that people most certainly 100% knew about that crime scene hours before the police. When that comes out in court, what do you guys think about that? That's going to come out in court. Like, there is no and then this huge patch of time is missing. Now, maybe it's missing because it's under seal. There is a possibility of that. You never know. But so we have now we have the undercover cops about to take the stand. Okay, this channel literally has every stop that those guys went on that night, on just what the reports were, and have body cam. But there's stuff that they wouldn't give me because they said it was in and had stuff to do with an ongoing investigation. Okay. I wanted the body. I didn't just want the body cams. I wanted the dash cams. If you're undercover, with those hybrids, I would think that it would behoove you to have dash cams. Okay. Because you're doing undercover shit, right? So you're in an unmarked car and you want your dash cam so that it can see stuff, right? Because, you're, I couldn't get my hands on any dash cam from that night with those dudes. That dash cam before they go and get those guys from the Banfield, that dash cam, those cameras, not only are they visual, the audio, you can pick up a shit ton on those audios. And that's why I wanted it. And but if they had a dash cam on in that vehicle, around that 2:30 to 2:52 time frame, holy motherfucker, that they were right by the house. I don't care what anybody says. What I take away from Linda Lane is there's whistling, and there 100% is flashlights. 100. Talking about fucking bugs and shit like that. Like, you guys, it's November 12th. Cold. It ain't the summer bugs, flying around, and no. Maybe on one of the clips, but there's flashlights all over there. You have people thinking that there's fake cops on campus. You have people thinking that people are fucking with them and pranking, and that's what they do on these college campuses. You have them, killing animals and skinning them and putting them on people's property. They were putting somebody was doing that to the sororities. Bunch of weird shit. I can't wait to see. I want to see Kaylee's phone. I want to see Maddie's phone. I want to see if there's any movement after 252 with those phones. If there's any GPS of the phones moving. I want to know if they were plugged into the wall. I want to know if they were charging. I want to know what clothing they were wearing. And they were in. I want to know, was it PJs going to bed type thing? Were they still dressed in the same outfit that they went out in? Same thing with, Ethan and Xana, and obviously there's going to be body cams to be seen what Bethany and Dylan have on. I want to see what they were even wearing. Anybody that thinks that there was cameras in that house, there was no nanny cams or anything like that. I can't wait to see what Dylan and Bethany were doing with their phones, just like in the Karen Reed case, what they were Googling, what their Google search says. What time they were Googling things. And remember, that's how Jennifer McCabe got caught. She Googled house long to die in the cold at 2:27 a.m. before she would have ever known, because they weren't supposed to find, John O'Keefe's body until 6 o'clock in the morning. That's how Jennifer McCabe's going to prison, probably federal prison, because she Googled something at 2:27 that becomes very relevant then when they find him in the cold. Why would anybody Google that? Get the fuck out of here. The bitch knew, right? So Dylan's Google. If you read the reports and you listen to how Jay Lawson and Ann Taylor have oral argued, do you guys know how many phones these kids were tossing up their DNA, and they were tossing up their phones to then be extracted, like downloaded Cellebrite? Boom. Do you know how many phones they have? And that's when Ann Taylor was like, we have all this stuff and we don't know whose stuff is what, because it's just not properly like tagged in folders. And I can only imagine. Do you know how many phones they would have and all the data of those phones? Let me break it down for you. 25,000 pages was the one report, one phone, Jennifer Drake's phone, 25,000 pages of the Cellebrite. And that printed out every single text message that was in there. And even if it was if it was deleted, it still showed up and what the media was with it. Her outgoing calls, incoming calls, all the contacts, when the contact was entered in as a contact. You can go so deep with the digging on these phones. So, Jack D's phone would have been Showalter's phone. And so it's not so much of what's going to be in the discovery, but what could possibly be missing that shouldn't be missing. That's things that I would want to know too. But they said in the oral arguments that there was, everybody was turning over their DNA. They were also just turning over their phones to be like extracted, to be downloaded. So I'm curious to know how many cell phones, extractions, downloads do they have? And then you would need mass people to go through that. You know how long it would take one person to go through that shit? It'd take, oh God. And then you guys do know that the way that local law enforcement was asking for surveillance cameras, whether you were a business or whether you were, a residential, they said, we want the camera footage, whatever you have that night, whether there is shit on it or not. Okay. Because how they determined Brian Koberger's or the perpetrator's route out of there is because of they eliminated stuff like this is how they did in their minds, and it's not going to fly. Well, these people all had cameras and they don't have any clips during this time period, and the Ring camera would have picked it up if he would have traveled that way. So they were then eliminating that, okay, he didn't go that way. He didn't go this way. He didn't go this way. Well, then how do you only have him literally leaving you only have him or this vehicle leaving out of the King Road neighborhood? And then you cannot eliminate because of somebody's Ring camera possibly didn't get that car. If these aren't running surveillance cameras, that is the most ridiculous shit I've ever heard. But that's what they put in the probable cause. That's how the path of travel was established. And Payne and Blaker's personal knowledge of the area. And so when I was there, I was driving back through all those streets and I was like, these dudes are seriously smoking some whacked out shit. There are so many different ways to get out back over there. I did it. That was one of the things I wanted to know and see. And these houses sit higher up than the road. And so your vehicle, in my opinion, how it would be angled, if I have a Ring, it's to see, the person's coming to my door, not to be angled down and over to the left so I can catch who's driving on my road, the more you break down that PCA, the more it's a complete reach, in my opinion, for that name, Brian Koberger. So the reason I got into this whole describing all of this is because of the interesting statements made by mainstream media folks saying, if you guys are just joining, is that Brian Koberger is guilty, but that they think that he's going to walk because he is going to go through numerous hung juries. And I'm like, hung juries, interesting. Last time I checked mainstream media, other than like today, to hear how they just are like, it's that Brian Koberger is, guilty and that there's all this evidence against him. And I'm like, yeah, well, you clearly don't know the case because there may be all this evidence against him, but it ain't fucking public. It is not public information. And like I said, I will be the first person to tell Ann Taylor to F off if she literally has been getting up there and lying and saying, I don't know what's tying my client here. I don't know how you guys got to him. Do I think she is? Absolutely not. These Moscow Police Department officers and the ISP officers, they are suspect as fuck. And I have personal knowledge of that. You do know, if you did not catch the episode that I just talked about this, Gary Tolson just took the stand in the ISP officer, ex-trooper who murdered his wife and tried to make it look like a suicide. That trial is going on right now in Idaho, in Athol, Idaho, right outside of Coeur d'Alene. His name is Dan Howard. Sick pussy ass coward bitch. But anyways, yeah, ex ISP dude made a. It was his wife, and do you guys remember when I had Scott Roeder on, and he was talking about one of the reenactments that he did? He was able to find like a burn mark on this woman, and it involved like a shower scene with, making it seem like she committed suicide in the shower, cut herself, whatever. But what he was able to prove is that nobody, while they would have been alive, would have been letting that scorching water hit them and burn them to that point. That fucking asshole, Dan Howard, made the same mistake. There was some testimony about that. But here comes Gary Tolson to testify to how they teach the, basically to put you to sleep, but then you could also kill somebody. Whatever the damn position is. And I was like, interesting. Gary Tolson is teaching people how to do this, maneuver to, have them in, pull them up, and you can kill somebody. All right. Depending on the way that you do it. But Gary Tolson teaches that. Okay. Now, Ann Taylor wanted Gary Tolson's training record, or his training, all of his credentials and everything with his records. And remember, they were fighting hardcore about that. Okay. About, we shouldn't have to give over these training records. You know what I mean? And Judge is like, okay, well, she just wants 3. It's not like she's asking for the whole fucking department. Okay. She specifically said 3. He's one of them. Well, what Dan did, ISP did, he put his wife, according to the autopsy and the person that was testifying. And then here's Gary Tolson. He's saying that he did that maneuver. But Gary Tolson didn't say that. He was just explaining the maneuver and that they train the ways that they're training. Well, I want to take a look at Ethan Chapin's autopsy. I want to take another look at that. I want to know if what Ann Taylor is asking for is because of any of the possible bruising, possible marks on any of these victims. If there isn't just stab wounds, if there's anything, to take somebody out before that, and then, because remember, one person being able to take on and do and kill 4 people, stabbing them, but these are the 2 people in each of the rooms are doubled up, but the people that are not doubled up were totally fine and left alone. So I'm curious if, but good old Gary Tolson, you got to see him on the stand. I mean, Gary, you're getting old, man. But he testified to this maneuver. We don't have the 911 call in this case. Another case that hasn't put out that 911 call, the Karen Reed case, the 911 call's not out there either. So, defense should have gotten x-rays within first month or 2. No excuses. Well, they were told at first that there were no x-rays. You can't make this up. Again, but that's according to the defense. That's what they're saying. I believe it though. You guys need to go check out the case that Ann Taylor did with, it was a girl. I'll pin it to my community page. I'm going to see if I can get my hands on the trial transcripts of that case. And if I can, I want to put some of that stuff out there. What Ann Taylor said about the investigation in that last case that she did, which was a pretty big case, she talks so heavily about that these people aren't trained right or they don't have common sense. Their investigative tools, they're just lacking. Like they're just so bad. And I know what she means, and I want to articulate this better. So I'm going to go ahead and try to grab all the information because I know what she's talking about. Like when I look at the Brian Drake case, I mean, for heaven's sakes, they had an expert tell them that this guy in 30 years of him doing his job with a Vista fucking gas company. Have you ever seen anyone try to commit suicide using the, natural gas and like filling up their own house with natural gas? And he's like, no, I've never in 30 years. Grilling this guy to the point where he's like, okay, are you sure? Like maybe if it was like this, he's like, no, there has to be way more into it than that because it's about overcoming the oxygen, how big of a place this is. And the guy that was from Avista that is talking to this ISP detective, he keeps saying, no, I've never seen somebody try to commit suicide that way in 30 years. I mean, I go to residential, commercial, all this shit. No, never. This ISP detective was trying to get this man to say that it looked like it was foul play and that it was tampered with and it was, he was trying, that Dr. Moore was trying to commit suicide. This guy would not budge on that. He's like, no, in all of the years, no. As a detective or even as just a regular human being, if I ask somebody that, and that's what they're telling me, then I'd move on. These guys are like, nope. This is what he tried. He tried to commit suicide. He just didn't realize it wouldn't work. That's their answer. And I'm like, you guys are just not smart. Like that's just, what do you want to say? Tunnel vision? What do you want to say it is? Like that, it's just bad. It's bad. Like I just don't feel like they need to be in this field. And that's what Ann Taylor is. That's her gripe with these people. She's seen it. That they don't know how to conduct an investigation. And so therefore, like in her last client, that girl was acquitted of a murder charge. There was no, she got off on technicality or anything like that. No, there was just no fucking evidence against her. Just like there's right now, where's this evidence against Brian Kober? That car should, according to Jennifer Coffin, after that car should have been lit up, Nancy Grace lit up like a fucking Christmas tree with all this, DNA. It's not. Nothing's in his apartment. Nothing. Come on. So, but Ann Taylor questions these law enforcement, their abilities, like your ability, like who, if you don't have the capacity to be, why are you running this investigation? You don't even know what the fuck you're doing. That type of shit, that type of questioning of what the fuck, that's the type of shit that Steve Gonsalves had a fucking problem with. Like, why is Officer Payne, he's been there for 2 years. Why was he picked this is his investigation? Okay. Let me tell you how what Bush League these dudes would be. They could have been pissed off that Payne was picked and then fucking didn't do a good job because fuck this. Fuck him. I've been here for how many years and why aren't I running this investigation? Everybody's always out for themselves. It's it's a sad concept, but it's true. And we could be thinking it's some big conspiracy, but really, nope. This guy just didn't do his job because he was miffed that Payne was picked to run and be in charge of this investigation. So you got guys that don't like each other, so then they just fucked with the shit. And if I'm telling you, if you don't think that that shit happens, it does. And I think that's what Ann Taylor has been seeing, is that, you know, in these bigger cities, these detectives and these officers, they're constantly, you know, fuck LA. How many times you get a phone call? There's fucking dead bodies. Someone's, you know, there's a murder. You know, how many times can you truly practice and have some the necessary training to then deal with something like that? And if you don't do it all right in the beginning, then it fucks up all your shit. Like the Brian Drake case, that was just a simple thing. It was a one body on the ground. You should have seen these guys in the body cam looking at this body, like just standing there like, we can't find a hole. It doesn't even look like he's been struck. Like, beg your pardon? Like they're just all like, there's a fucking bullet through the window, okay? But we can't. Yeah, but he's not struck anywhere. Like what? You know? Oh, it's because the scene didn't match the. You know, that's a stage. They don't. They have no experience. But how do you get experience if you're in that town and nothing like that happens? So I don't know. I just feel that Ann Taylor she has issues with these guys and girls. They're not. They don't know what they're doing. They're just. And I think we're going to see a lot of it. I think that there is going to be no testifying to hearsay, okay? You know, like you can with grand jury and even in the preliminary hearing, you get Payne wouldn't have even been able to, he wouldn't even be qualified. You have to, I think they realize that too. So it'll be interesting. Yeah, these amateurs that can't find the hole. You should have go back and look at those body cams, man. I'm just like, what the fuck look at them clearing this office building. None of them have gloves on. They're opening every fucking door without gloves. Then they go in the front door to the building was unlocked. This guy, who's a veteran of 20 some years, works for the sheriff's department. He has his body cam still on, and here his ass, Alan Schleff, he goes to see if it's still open, then he closes it, and then he locks the fucking door up. That's not how it was found, which is really important in that investigation to know that, wait, that front door was unlocked, so the perpetrator could have come in the front door and left, right? Normally that door is not unlocked. But then here's Alan Schleff. The door was unlocked, and on the body cam, he's going around, goes outside, comes back in, and then he locks it. None of these dudes have gloves on. They're taking out their cell phones. They're taking pictures of everything with their cell phones, which is, hey, they tell you in the policy that you can do that in Idaho. But guess what? The minute that you use your phone for something like that, the minute that you have to download your material and it goes into evidence. And so here I have these body cams now that prove that these dudes were using their phones. Where are their videos from their phones, and where are the phone pictures? Because now the body cam can prove that. And then this is Idaho State Police, or I'm sorry, this is Boundary County Sheriff's deputies. Allegedly, somebody shot through a fucking blind into a window. And these derelicts pull up the blind. What are you doing? what are you doing? Why would you pull up the blind and scrunch everything? Like, take the blind down, leave it as it is, right? Because they said they did, we wanted to take a picture of the window without the blind on, without the blind. So your solution to that was to pull the blind little rope on the side so that it scrunched all the blinds together. Are you fucking dumb? That's like a girl I hired when I owned a bar, and I said, she calls me up in the middle of the night and says, Lana, somebody kicked in the urinal and there's water everywhere. I don't know what to do. And I'm like, Nina, I need you to go shut off the water. I did every faucet, and I turned off the faucet, and there's no water coming out of either of the bathroom. Then I went in the bar area, and I'm none of that water's on either. All the water's off. I said, what? I need you to shut off the main water. What? This is what I hear back. What? I turned off the faucet. Nina, what the fuck are you talking about? I need you to go get me the cook. Get the cook on the phone. Well, I sent him home because you did what? Well, it wasn't that busy. So he's not there because it's not busy. He's there for your protection. He's there because you're a girl and not supposed to be by yourself. I sent Russ home. I said, are you out of your fucking mind? I said, who's there? Get me one of the guys. Do you want the guy that kicked in the urinal? Yeah, sure, great. It's your friend. He got into a fight here. I was like, what? I'm rolling the cameras back. I'm like, you son of a bitch, what are you doing? Yeah, this broad thought she should just turn off all the faucets to make sure they were all off, and that's how you shut off the water. I said, where do you live? Do you live by yourself? I was like, thank God you're fucking hot because you're dumb as fuck. But that's what she was doing, man. I was like, God, I know it. I mean, I paid for it here. I was like, if I have to come down there at 3:00 in the morning, Nina, I'm going to be pissed. She's like, stop it. I don't even know. And I'm just laughing because I'm like, God. But Nina, if you ever watch this, I love you. I had the best staff. Anyways. But yeah, so these guys, Idaho, this was an Idaho State police officer that it was a detective. This was a crime scene expert for them to do, like they have their crime scene team come in and do all the forensics. That's who pulled up the fucking blinds. And I said to myself, if you want to take a picture of the window without the blinds, why aren't you just taking the blinds down and then because you put the blinds in evidence, right? We have those. But you just fucked with all this shit. And so I can only imagine, like, that's just, you're not. Oh, shit, man. Anyways, but and then I was able to find that they moved stuff. Like, what the hell are you touching anything for? Like, what are you doing? You're just supposed to take pictures. You're supposed to process a scene. You're supposed to dust for prints. You're not supposed to fucking touch anything. What are you touching things for? Why are you moving things? I don't understand. And these aren't situations like, oh, hey, let me bring you in here and tell you, hey, you can't do that. Like, you have multiple people standing around. When this guy was going to go to attempt to do that, who's there to say, hey, stop, what are you doing? Don't touch that. Like, no. And so that's where the frustration, I believe, exists with Ann Taylor, is that these people are not qualified. They don't know what they're doing. And so therefore we can't get justice, and you guys are over here tunnel vision, or just, you guys are creating these narratives without any factual evidence to back it up. Like Jennifer Drake saying her husband was shot through the window, and it happened at the end of their phone call. That's her fucking story. That is not evidence. You guys get that, right? That's that bitch's story. Okay? You then have to process the scene, and then you have to then, are you going to use any forensics to prove that to be true? Like, that's her version of events. That is not evidence. I hate to break that to you. That's a narrative. The police just went with that. So in this Idaho4 case, great. I don't give a fuck if there's DNA and it came back to Brian Kober at the scene. You still need to back all that shit up. And I just don't think it's there. I don't. But maybe it could have been there if we didn't have derelicts processing the scene. So is it possible that Megyn Kelly and these other people, when they're talking about these hung jurors, these hung juries that are going to be possibly coming in this case, well, then I'm going to go ahead and be the brains and the balls to say, then there's going to be a hung jury because Idaho fucked it up. That's why. Okay. Or there's going to be a hung jury because the evidence isn't there, right? These people aren't just going to have a hung jury for no fucking reason. It's because shit doesn't add up. That's when there's hung juries. Like when it's like, you know, they think it's beyond a reasonable doubt, they don't. Or, hey, I don't believe that was the same car. And if I don't believe that, then then he wasn't there. He was not at the scene if I don't believe that that's his car. But you're telling me, because that's your theory, right? But if I see these and then your own expert gets fucked up and he doesn't think it's the same car and you had to go back to him and get him to say that, think about that. Get out of here, man. No, sorry. Adios. And then when the date comes back to show that you only went back to him after you had the name Brian Kober, but you would have never went to him to have him, reconsider that. It was after you found out that Brian Kober owned this vehicle in this year, right? Yeah, that's why you went back over there, right? Fuck out of here. So we'll see. If Brian Kober has told Ann Taylor what he did and that he truly didn't do this, then the only answer that he could possibly be telling Ann Taylor is that for his DNA to be there, he has to be framed. Do you get what I'm saying? So in order, like, that's what Brian Kober has to be saying to her. Otherwise, he's saying, hey, okay, they caught me, it's me, but you have to give me the best defense. And I killed everybody, but you're going to go ahead and defend me and you're just going to go up there and lie. But no. So the only answer that could truly be Brian Kober saying this is that he believes that he would have been framed. And so that's what he's telling Ann Taylor, right? And so with that said, that means the reason they need this discovery and certain things really bad is because Brian Kober is helping in that capacity to be able to go through all of this material, to be able to find where and how and when. That's what I did to be able to prove what Idaho State Police did to Dan Moore. You have to go through all that material. And it's a lot of material, right? So there's a ton of material, but you have to go through it so that you can attempt to prove the setup, attempt to prove that you're being framed. And then you'd have to say why, just like they have their theory. As a defense, you can have your theory. I think people have forgotten that. And the way that the world works right now, you aren't innocent of proven guilty, and that's just so sad. But you have to put out, yeah. And I'm curious on that. I'm curious as to who Brian Kober believes would have set him up and why. Where did they get your DNA? Why you? You know, I'm sure. But if he truly feels this way, and if it's the truth, if that is the truth, just think about that. Now think about your life, and if somebody, who do you think would ever try to frame you for murder? And how are you going to prove that? Also, you never heard the saying, you can't prove a negative? It's awful. So with that said, thank you guys so much. TNT loves you all. Do me a favor on your way out. You're going to have an opinion. Thumbs it up, thumbs it down. Share the video. You guys are great. The mods, you guys rock. But the investigation sometimes takes a little bit longer. That's what they kept on telling us. This stuff takes time. We want to be able to prosecute. Well, now we have mainstream media believing that Brian Kober is going to walk, and I'm very, very interested in that. They weren't saying that before.